This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
The next day, or your next event, yeah, it is the next day, April 9th, you're back on TV. This is the one we were talking about earlier, the TBS studios, or the WTCG studios, in fact. Mike Starbuck and Tony Zane. What can you tell us about Mike Starbuck?
I don't know, but Tony Zane broke in with me.
Yeah, he's one of your buddies from Rome, Georgia, right?
He's one of the guys that originally Ted trained, and now he didn't get hired anywhere right away. So I had my run through the first time through Pensacola. Then I went through the Watts deal, and now I'm back in Georgia, but in a totally different position. He's kind of in the position that we started at, as far as just doing jobs on TV and wrestling in a Boaz or Albertville on the weekends. So that was kind of deja vu-ish. Mike Starbuck, I don't recall too much.
Let's talk about the studio here. I think some of our listeners probably heard me say WTCG, and they're thinking, wait a minute, I thought that was TBS. Locally, TBS was known as WTCG. And then eventually, when it gets pushed out over the satellite to all the cable and satellite subscribers, it's known as the Superstation. And a few years later, it becomes branded as WTBS. But WTCG is sort of the embryo from which WTBS was born. Then the next time we see you wrestle is later that night. As we mentioned, this was a morning taping. So after you finish doing TV here, y'all jump to Cincinnati, Ohio. That's probably your plane trip. And you're going to beat Brett Wayne and Joe Lightfoot. The next day, you're in Wheeling, West Virginia, again, picking up a win over Wayne and Lightfoot. The following day, you're back down to Augusta, Georgia, this time with Brett Wayne and Brian Blair. You would have another match with them 5 days later in Chattanooga. And then you're back in the Omni, and you're picking up a win again, this time against Joe Lightfoot and Ray Candy. Ray Candy is a name that I'm super familiar with. We've all heard this name. Black Stud Williams, Commando Ray, the Mass Superfly, but I remember him as Ray Candy, and I haven't seen a ton of his stuff, but tell us about Kareem Muhammad, the guy we know as Ray Candy.
Well, he was huge. I mean, the guy was, God, he had to be 6'8", 350.
Yeah, he's a big fella.
And, he could move too for a pretty big guy. And I'm sure if I was a betting man, Matt and I took an opportunity to make what we're looking at real. And I'm sure he bounced us around all over the place. And I'm sure in that particular situation, Joe Lightfoot was put in the auspicious position of selling and probably dropping the fall. Just going back, if I was going to lay it out today, that's the way it would have went down. And I just remember Ray Candy being a very easy guy to do business with, but a very solid guy, big guy. And that would have been a big win for us.
Let's talk a little bit about, Ray Candy. We're running through a lot of different names here as we go through the territory days. And I get that. I wasn't even young enough to see Ray Candy wrestle, but I've seen old clips and stuff. But Ray Candy's a guy who, as far as I know, helped sort of break in New Jack, who were recently lost, and even Kane, the mayor, right? I mean, these guys, very seldom do we run across a name where there's not a tie to another name. That's what's so fun about wrestling to me, is this became that. Does that make sense?
Sure. I didn't know that he had a hand in the Kane training. Was this before or after Malenko?
I'm not sure. I just know that Ray passed away way too young. I think he was like 41 or 42 or something. But still, his brief period of time in professional wrestling still has a little bit of a legacy running around out there.
Sure. And we're all connected.
Yeah.
In one way or the other, even if it just means I worked with that guy in my first territory, or that guy was a referee in the first town I ever worked, or this guy, it's like Kamala was my first house match for Bill Watts. It's one of those things you never forget. It has, it has value, and it's one of the memories that you never forget, because there are a lot of firsts in this business, and a lot of times those are special. Sometimes you remember those firsts because they weren't so special, but it's we're all connected. And even the fans, and I say this all the time, I wish they knew how connected they really are to what we do. We found that out during this pandemic when we couldn't have fans. They are imperative to everything we do. They provide our adrenaline. They provide our energy. They provide our, all the positive things that we bring through that curtain. It's because of those fans raising holy hell on the other side of it. And they're critical to what we do.
They keep you on Georgia Championship Wrestling, though, of course. You're going to work the National Heavyweight Championship Tournament. In the first round, you pick up a win over Mark Hill. In the second round, Mr. Wrestling 2 beats you. And then, believe it or not, you make some shots for Bill Watts. You go back home to the Irish McNeil's Boys Club and have a TV taping where Mr. Wrestling 2 is going to pick up a win over you, and Magnum TA. Is this one of your first times wrestling Magnum here?
Yeah, it was the first time.
What did you think your first time working Magnum would have been? June 22nd, 1983.
What a look. What a look. Very intense, athletic. I knew he was going to go somewhere for sure.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.